Welcome everybody to a new and awesome edition of Superhero League. This is our 10th episode. Thanks for being here to all the participants. I'm Omar Sadoun, and with Eric Wallstad we'll be hosting this track. And today we will have one of the most expected topics by our community, and that's governance. And to explain what's happening under the hood, we will have Philipp explaining and responding everything about it. But before starting with that, I would like to share a couple of rules. For those with questions, feel free to post them on the chat, raise your hand, turn on your cameras, and join the discussion when we invite you to do so. And then turn your camera off again, so we can have the speakers on the stage always to everybody to see them. You can also follow us on the Eternity YouTube as well as Periscope through the Eternity account. And don't forget to mention your chain name to get a tip, and also use superhero.com to tip great content. We will share the links to download the extension, so you can reward with a tip to any public content without any restriction, intermediary, or censorship. Okay, so governance. That has been such a hot topic on so many activities where decisions needed to be made, but every time we get the same question. Was it fair? Was it transparent? What were the rules? Are we being scammed on the process? From political parties to business corporate decisions, governance, it's always an issue. Even blockchain has its side on this story, but also I think it can be the answer for such problems. Having clear and mutable and verifiable rules, it's so important, and Eternity as a response for it, and we are more than happy to show how it works. And for that, as I said before, we will have Pivo joining us, who has been one of the most involved in building this governance app. For the ones that don't know Pivo, I will present him. He's an Eternity smart contract and core developer. Philipp has been a long-time blockchain enthusiast and software developer. He loves bringing his passion and knowledge into developing scalable and innovative solutions, as well as educating others about blockchain technology. I'm very aware of that. I was one of his students. So thanks, Pivo, for being here. Please take the stage with us and show us about Superhero. We are going through the presentation now. And once again, don't forget to send your questions through all the channels so Pivo can respond them at the end of the presentation. So, Philipp, welcome. Thanks again for being here. The stage is yours.
Thank you.
Hi, good day. Welcome to this week's Superhero League. And today I'm going to show a little bit around the governance app. First of all, we're going to start with a quick introduction. How does the governance app work? What can you do with it? Then I will go into how we can verify if the results of the polls are exactly as shown, just by running the script on your own computer, connecting eventually to your own Eternity node, and then verifying that everything is that the results of the poll are as displayed in the app to you. And then we're going to go a little bit into how does the governance app work under the hood, how is it implemented, and where can you start and to find out more of the details of the implementation, and eventually also contribute some things to it if you think we need to adjust certain things. So let's first start off. What can we do with the governance app? When we open it up on the screen, as you see, we see a list of the currently open polls, sorted by, in this case, hotness, where we gather the newest polls, the ones that have the biggest stake and the most importance in general on the top. So let's go into this first one. Do you like superhero.com? When we see it, there's two options. First of all, there's a headline, the number of the ID of the poll, there's a question, some reference to, usually we would reference here, where you can find the discussion around this poll. This is only opinion poll, so it's not needed here. And then we find out the options. So we see 100% voted yes. This is also the bar in the bottom, and you can see what accounts did vote for which option and what accounts voted for the other option. Then I'm currently logged in here with my Superhero wallet, so what I can do is I can participate in the voting. So I can put my vote here. Now the transaction was sent to the Aeternity blockchain. And also I find my account here in the list with 10 tokens. Also I can go to the account, my account page, and can see my votes here. So I see that I participated in this vote and see a more detailed overview of my account. Let's show another feature of the governance app, which is delegation. For this, I'm going to open a second governance app with another account logged in. So I open the poll on both sides now, and I see with the one I have voted, so it's checked with the other one I didn't. So what I want to do is, from the second account, I want to create a delegation to this first account so that all the voting power of the second account goes to the one of the first account. For this, I'm going to copy the address of the first account, go to the profile page in the second, and paste in the blockchain address here, and send this to the blockchain, confirm the transaction. And then I see here I have a delegatee, which is the other account. Now when I reload the first page, I see I got a delegation of 7.7 tokens, or 7 eternity tokens from the second account. And also when I will have a look where I participated in the poll, let's refresh quickly. Let's refresh again. Okay, so when I refresh, I can see here I have one delegation from this other account, and together both accounts have 10 plus 7 tokens, and these total 17 tokens are counted for the vote in this option. When I, in the second account, go and open the poll, I see that my delegatee voted for yes. And if I wish, or if I'm unhappy with the choice of my delegatee, I can always override with the second account. If I vote myself, then the vote will not be counted, or the voting power will not be counted in favor of my delegatee's choice, but of my own choice. And so if I say I don't want to participate in every vote, but I trust another account to vote in with my tokens, I can choose to do so. This is generally how it works, and then we see all of the delegations, all of the votes counted together, and see who participated and voted for what option in the polls. Let's go and open one of the closed polls. I choose this one, the number 4. If we should bring back the dev researchers call, where there happened a discussion here, and there was 32% in favor and 68% not in favor. And I want to verify, are these results actually true? And I want to check on my own Aeternity node, was this the truth at the point of time this vote happened? So what we have here in the bottom is a verify the poll button. And this leads to the documentation. How can we verify polls on the blockchain just by using our own node? So first of all, we need Node.js installed for this, as the script is written in Node.js, and we need access to a full Aeternity node with access to the debug endpoints. We can run our node ourselves. For this, we will use one of the hosted nodes, but both is possible. Let me switch to the command line, and I'm going to clone the repository to show it's really that simple. Then I'm going to enter the repository. And I'm going to npm install, which is installing the dependencies. Then let's see. So there's a script verify.js that we're going to call. And in the script are some verify constant where you could change the node in order to run a verification. we use npm run verify poll ID, and I'm going to use this example here in the bottom as it includes the middleware URL. The middleware here is used to fetch all transactions for this poll to speed up the finding of the delegations and these kinds of things. So I'm going to run paste this here and with the middleware defined npm run verify, which runs the verify script, and I'm going to use the number 4 poll. So what it's going to do, this is going to initialize the Aeternity SDK to communicate and connect to the node and the middleware. And you see some progress here. These symbols are for different kinds of things that are going to be fetched from blockchain, and we actually see the result here. So we see the poll is closed already, meaning the results are finalized and will never be able to change again in the future. The total stake participated was 23,000 Aeternity tokens, which is 0.01% of total Aeternity available. There were 8 votes, and votes for the option yes was 31.84%. In the UI, it rounds to the closest neighbor, so it's not always correct, or not 100% correct, and no was 68.16%. So the results of what the node gives us and the script match the one that the UI gives us. And this is how easy it is to verify using your own node if the results shown in the governance app are actually correct. If you're a developer and want to look into how this is working, you can also, as it's open source and we just cloned the repository, open the verify.js file and see what is happening there. So first of all, we're going to connect to the node mainnet eternal.io and to the compiler apps.com, as we have to do some contract calls and need a compiler for this. And here's also the registry contract pre-filled, which is the default registry for the polling system in Aeternity. Then we initialize the Aeternity node, fetch some metadata, initialize the logic that is implemented in the polling system, find the poll, and then we can execute the main logic, which is finding the state of this poll, including all of the votes and delegations that have happened. And then the last thing we do is we're just going to print it all out as you have seen in the result earlier. So let's jump into this, what is happening here, the poll votes state. This is also the exact same function that is used in the governance server on what you will see in the app. So the logic is one-to-one matching there, just that you can have a look and verify that everything is working as it should. So what's first going to happen, we're going to fetch the poll state and the voting accounts from the Aeternity blockchain. So we jump in here, use the Aeternity node to find, get the contract instance. There's some caching happening here so that we don't always find the same things. And in the end, we get the state, the whole state of the poll contract, the specific one that we have opened. Going back to the start of the poll vote state, the next thing we're going to fetch is all of the delegations. They will be written into the cache and will be used later in the next steps. What this is going to do, in the contract, it's going to find all of the delegations that happened at place or time the contract closed, or at the current time that's right now, depending if the contract, if the poll is already closed or if it's not closed. If it's not closed, we're going to use the current state. If it has been closed, we find all events of delegations and calculate the delegations as they were in the past, because delegations may change, but for a closed poll, we wish for the data to never be changed in the future. Then we're going to look at the stakes at height. So for every account, we need to find the amount of tokens the account had at this height. So for this, we have defined this function, and you can go deeper to into it if you wish to know what's happening here. So basically we check if it's closed or not, and then calculate the balance of the account plus the amount of delegations. And then when we have all of the stakes at height of the accounts that participated in voting, we can sum them up for the stakes for this option. So we're going to group the votes and the stakes that each account had at the time the poll closed or at the current time by the option of the poll, which is done using this function. And this is the stakes for the option. And then last but not least, we're going to fetch the total supply of eternity tokens to show the percentage of total supply. And then in the end, you see when we go back to our verification, we just show the data. So we're going to show here the poll state, the total stake, the poll state, the percentage of total supply, which was calculated in this function, the vote count, and for each of the votes, each of the options, the vote amount and the stake and percentage of the amount. So this is basically it, how we can verify the polls using our own node, and you can change the node here if you wish. You can choose a different registry contract if there's maybe a different one and run this all on your own node. If you want to verify closed polls without the middleware, it's going to take some time because it has to index parts of the blockchain to find all contract transactions regarding the registry contract for delegation manually. So be prepared that it may be taking half an hour to 2 hours depending on the speed of your node and computer to find all of these things from the blockchain without help of the index that the governance server provides. And this in the end gives us these results, makes them verifiable for you locally, and I encourage you to check out our repository in GitHub, where you will also find these guides, see how you can run the whole governance system locally on your own computer, and also some thoughts that we had while implementing this polling system. Thank you for your attention, and I think I will be here in the call for some questions and answers if there are any.
Well, thank you very much, Pivo, for the presentation. It was great, and I personally know how much work is involved behind this app, so congratulations to you and the team behind. I have a couple of questions on the meantime. How could you explain a little bit more on how the stake calculation works? Meaning that every voter could vary his token amount through time. How that calculation is working?
So first of all, we are going to fetch all of the accounts that happened or that participated in the voting and trying to figure out all the delegations that were happening at this point in time. So we're going to fetch this from the contract events that were logged in the node. And then for each of the accounts that participated or delegated voting power that has something to do with this poll, we're going to fetch the balance at height of closing of the poll. And then we're going to sum it up by option. It's that simple when I tell it like this, but in reality it's harder because delegations can be in a tree structure. So I can have a delegation and I can have sub-delegations unto an infinite depth. So what we need to do is we need to avoid circles so that if I delegate to you and you delegate back to me, which we can do legally in the governance, only one of the things is calculated and not unlimited amount of tokens, so that we don't crash the system, for example. So there's a few things that need to be looked out for.
Cool, thanks. We have one from Eric here that says, what was your motivation for creating the governance app?
So we were working with the Eternity Foundation in last summer to build an app to make delegated voting or delegated weighted voting with aeternity tokens that's based on the blockchain itself. So first we thought about making it as a protocol extension, so a new specific transactions, but then we opted for the easier solution to make it as a smart contract and also easier to extend and change some things eventually. And I think it turned out quite nicely.
Cool. I have one from Gus here. It says, what are the incentives for a regular Joe A holder to participate in these votings?
So I do think there's no token incentive or no reward what you get, but the incentive should be that you can participate in decisions made on Eternity. So if it's a decision that affects you as a token holder, it's in your interest to participate in voting. If you don't have any wishes for change, or you think or the proposals don't care for you, I think you don't need to be incentivized to participate in voting.
Okay, makes sense. We have one. Where would you like to see this implemented? In which area you think this is very needed?
So I do think it's very needed when we think about future hard forks of Eternity, whether the community agrees. So this miners can get the opinion from the stakeholders of Eternity to see the community stands behind this hard fork, and the miners see they should really activate this fork eventually or support it. And also for maybe parts of the community that are unheard of. Not everybody is vocal in the forums or vocal in the Telegram or vocal in the SuperheroLeague here, but maybe still hold tokens and share their opinion in a very simple way.
Okay, thanks. I have one from Marco. He's asking about what's the progress with the Ledger app to allow participation with the hardware wallet. I know this isn't or wasn't possible yet.
Yes, so there is a version that it's open source on the Eternity GitHub, but the Ledger team hasn't tested and authorized it yet to be put in their store. And we're working together with them to resolve the issues. We provided them with some testing framework where they can try out that everything is working as expected, and we hope for them to release it soon. Cool. But also, I mean, if you hold your tokens on a ledger, you can also transfer them somewhere else if the vote is important enough to justify this.
Yeah, of course. I have one from Cristobal. It's about, is signaling from the miners going to be implemented in voting, or is it only going to be used for as a hard intention?
So the voting is a generalized polling system where we can poll, anybody can poll about anything. When we as Eternity provide another hard fork, or we want to incentivize or create another hard fork, we will make a poll and see what the reflection of the community and the stakeholders is about it, whether it should be activated or not. What the miners' decision based on this poll is, if they think it's sufficient or not, will be their decision if they activate it or not. They will not be forced to do anything. Yeah, and I think also if the community, if some community developers want to make a hard fork or propose additional features, they can of course do it as long as they provide the guidelines, what they think is needed, and market their ideas to other parts of the community to participate in voting and to be vocal about their ideas.
Cool. Well, I have another one. I'm not sure if it's a question of a statement. I read it anyway. It's from where we're here. I think that once the app works and people sorted it out last time when I had issues, so no issues there, and I think it will work well in Superhero. My real only statement is that we need rule apps front to guide how governance will work.
So I think in general about rules for the governance system, it's not Eternity having to give the rules how it works, but the individual opening a poll having to market their idea and to convince others of their idea. So if I have an idea for something that needs to change, and let's say 90% of Eternity stake agrees with me, everybody will be very sure this is important. And we cannot, or it's on chain, and we cannot keep silent about it, even if there's something that maybe a central party has against it. But if it's marketed not very well by this person, or the community doesn't seem to care, then also I think there don't need to be any rules for how this works or what this means. If there's just 0.5% or less than 1% of stake participating in a vote, maybe nobody needs to care. Maybe if it's a minor thing, people do care, because we don't expect a high participation. But if the participation is high, it's a good reason for people to care.
I have another one. This is not from me. It's from Eric. Is there a guide to fork the governance app for specific blockchain voting use cases, for example, political elections or university elections?
So I think you, Omar, worked on something with the Pirate Party in Uruguay to use the fork of the governance app for delegated voting there. And I think in general it's a good idea. It's open source, you can fork it anytime. If you open a new registry, you can put any poll there that you wish without affecting without showing in the main governance system that we use right now. Or you can even change the rules a little bit. For example, think about voting with AX9 tokens that you specifically hand out to people. I mean, there were some ideas about making a reward token in the forum. So if you make good content in the forum, you receive some AX9 tokens as reward, and we can make a separate version of the governance app that counts the stake of these tokens and allow you voting with those in a fork.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was our story. Decided changing a little bit what were the rules and how the votes were counted. So yeah, it's exactly that. Cool. Let's say I have a clarification from Cristobal. I think as an appropriate example in BTC forks, the miners can say now what favor before the fork stake action. In A, the fork is done, and we wait for miners to either say stay in the old version or upgrade. Correct?
Yes, I think the process is the same for Eternity and Bitcoin regarding forks. So the blocks can contain a version field since the last hard fork, where the miners can signal themselves if they have updated to the new version or not. And with an upcoming hard fork, somebody can implement a check for this info field, so that, let's say, if not 80% of miners have updated within the last 2 weeks or something like this, or the last 80% of blocks contains the updated version field, the hard fork will be preliminarily cancelled. This is the same as in Bitcoin from the system.
Cool. Well, we have much more questions, but we need to move forward. So
we can discuss the follow-up question there.
Yes.
So currently we are not using it. It was introduced with the last hard fork, planned to be used by anyone doing a next hard fork. If Eternity core developers propose a next hard fork, this version field will be used. If the community proposed a new hard fork, it's up to the community to use the field or not.
Cool. Perfect. Well, Pivo, thank you very much for all your responses and for your presentation. Thanks again.